If there's one man who can help, if there's one man who can help, it's the man coming in here right now.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Fullmetal Alchemist Fan Guide. That is the Fullmetal Alchemist Fan Guide for the 2003 anime, roughly for Fullmetal Fridays. That's going to be about 52 episodes of Fullmetal Alchemist for roughly each week of the year if we include the movie. Although sometimes, have to bunch a couple episodes together just for scheduling. All part of a podcast made Fullmetal. You can typically expect these Fridays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today we're going to be looking at episodes 39 and 40, and I really enjoyed these two. Been a while since I watched both of them. We have The Secret of Ishbal and The Scar, so maybe some origins about Scar there. So in The Secret of Ishbal, for our synopsis, basically on a train ride back to the military base heading down to Lior, Mustang finds out that Kimberly has actually been recruited and has been reinstated as a state alchemist by our good friend Archer, who was promoted as well. Also, the Elrics and Marta have teamed up there in Ishbal trying to kind of investigate the secrets of Ishbal and looking for Scar. Turns out Mustang has sent a couple of his troops to spy on them, keep tabs on them. Because Mustang wants them really under his supervision now, they actually show Ed that it turns out Scar has been creating a giant transmutation circle. I guess we saw this image of him kind of dragging something heavy. And I wondered what that was. I was like, wait, is he dragging a body, or is this some sort of like typical shonen thing where he's training himself for strength? I totally could see Scar doing that, but he actually was. We only saw it in brief context. He is slowly dragging something through the dirt to create this big array to enhance the power of his arm, as he is trying to build a big Philosopher's Stone. As we know, based on The Secret, you just want to use the same principle of human sacrifice, but on a much larger scale. And after finding this out, Ed decides to actually go undercover into Lior to find out more about it. Mustang's kind of angry about this. But Archer, of course, doesn't completely trust Edward, so he actually says he's going to leave Al behind. He also leaves behind his watch, which is enhanced with alchemical abilities, just to make sure that he won't be given away, and with Al there, it's kind of a way to sort of keep him in check and make sure that he won't leave. In The Scar, this is kind of where we get more backstory. Ed is, of course, in Lior, and he runs across Rose, and she's kind of taken the place of Cornello as sort of this religious figure, maybe doing her own offshoot. She's considered the Holy Mother, although apparently she's mute, and we'll get into why that is in a second. He also runs into Scar, and apparently Scar has been teaming up with Rose and kind of following along with his plans. And they start fighting. Turns out Pride gave the order to Lust and Gluttony that now that Ed kind of knows too much, it's time to kill him. So they're about to do that. But Scar and Ed kind of team up. Meanwhile, Al and Marta find Kimberly in the base, and Marta is angry about Kimberly betraying them. So she actually tries to attack him. But Kimberly has the soldier nearby and uses him as a bomb. That doesn't go quite well. He starts fighting Al, and then Mustang intervenes. And oddly enough, I guess Kimberly decided to keep the whole thing with Marta, and Al, to himself, he could have easily said, "Oh yeah, he's working with a known criminal," but he doesn't say that. Just says, keep Al away from me. So I guess maybe he doesn't want to actually, get Mustang's help and just deal with it himself. One of the biggest things really about this episode, there's a couple big things that really happen in this one. The first one is really we learn more about Scar's backstory, because Rose is there, Lyra's there. It seems she's just kind of helping Rose out as well. She really wants to help Scar, believes it's a way that she can help somebody. She sort of believes in his cause. So we get a little more enhancement on the flashbacks we've seen before. Before the war, Scar, we know that Scar lost his fiancée due to an illness and tried to use alchemy to bring her back, and explains, Ed actually kind of uses insight to say, okay, well, this is the stand-in for the person that was failed to be created, that was Lust. He kind of has to tell Scar, remember, she might look a lot like that person, but she's not really human. So that might use that as an advantage, which I think might become a problem later. And so Scar's brother had created the Philosopher's Stone, and actually it's finally revealed that we actually get a clear explanation about what the tattooed arm is. So that's basically the Philosopher's Stone is kind of transformed into the form of the arm, because when they were attacked years ago by Kimberly, his arm was destroyed. Scar also got the scar on his face because Kimberly's like, let's, take you apart piece by piece. There's that flashback where, basically the military went in and destroyed everybody in Ishbal, and even though there was clearly, it was obviously a conspiracy to give the military the excuse to do it in the eyes of, I guess, the people, maybe the surrounding countries, to say it was a justified war, when clearly it was done unjustly to be part of this bigger plot. And yes, he used the alchemy to transfer the arm along with all the souls of these people. It's basically a Philosopher's Stone in the form of his arm. So it doesn't just have to be this red stone shape. It can be other things, which I believe also is kind of expanded on before. So yes, Scar's arm is essentially kind of an incomplete Philosopher's Stone that he's actually going to continue to use to make it more powerful, to create a more complete, more powerful stone. You see that cool visual of the hypothetical with this big gem thing that he has suspended in the air, almost hovering like he's controlling. It's a really cool image of the hypothetical thing he's doing. So we learn more about that, and basically another reason why Kimberly, we see a little bit about Kimberly there, where he's like, I don't really care about any of your worthless lives. He has that really disturbing line. He's like, you're all going to die at some point anyway. Might as well have it in the hands of an expert. So we get a little more about Kimberly there, and really just how sadistic he was. And I forgot how evil he really was. As all this is going on, Fear Bradley has actually decided to go down to the base. He was talking to Kimberly, and he's saying, okay, well, I'm going to give you instructions to go in there, and you can actually cause another devastation in Lior, because there's these two factions that have been fighting since Cornello was usurped. And of course, when Ed found out about this, it kind of breaches his trust with Mustang. And Mustang says, he was that good line where he's like, it was too big for you. That's why I didn't tell you. Just emphasizing that they are kids and there's only so much they can handle. And Ed, of course, would, take it on himself and really blame himself, which he basically does. And so, Kimberly is sent by Bradley to go to Lior and just cause more fighting so they can, basically sort of guide Scar along, with his plan to make a stone so they can use it to their ends. And even though it's been heavily implied, I don't think it's been outright stated that Pride is Bradley at this point. And even though it's been highly hinted at, and the way it's presented in this episode, it's like almost that we should have known, but they actually finally fully reveal it, if there was any doubt. Because I guess sometimes we think it might be Envy in his form. Yes, Bradley not only is in league with whoever is behind these mass devastations and wars and all manipulating all these alchemists to their own ends. Marta overhears this, though, that this plot is to cause trouble and to kill Ed as well. To actually use Ed as the excuse to start a new war, saying, this beloved state alchemist, this man of the people went in and was actually killed by the people of Lior. Lior is essentially going to be another Ishbal. So Marta overhears this, but we find out that Bradley is Pride, and he has the ultimate eye, so he can basically read all her movements, and he's extremely keen on any kind of attack you have. He can basically see through it. At least that's how it's first established. She manages to find Al, and she's like, I gotta tell you about this. And we don't actually hear her say anything. She hides inside Al, and of course, Bradley with his eye can see that she's in there and just slowly slides the sword in and kills her. And he's like, and of course, calmly says, I hope you're okay, Al, It's like, we appreciate your help apprehending this prisoner, basically. And you got this image of Al just really upset because he's really grown attached to Marta and cares about her. And we've actually grown attached to her because we learned more about her backstory as well, that the reason she and all the chimeras, were locked away is before that they were actually part of special operations involved in going into things like Ishbal and seeing the terrible things the alchemists did in the government's name. And so they were basically black ops, which is, since everything was off the books, they could easily use them for their experiments. I recently watched V for Vendetta, and I was getting some similar reminders of that. So they were essentially there. They showed there were other chimeras that were fused as well. There were also souls bonded to armor. much like we've seen before. So all these experiments they were using to kind of build these different soldiers, and she really resents the military and Kimberly and the homunculi for that. So we got to learn a lot more about her and her reasons for revenge, but she also did care a lot about the Elric brothers as well. Like a really likable character. Just yet another example, I think, of how even these minor characters flesh out the world and they're relatable from their experience. And so when she gets killed, it's this really intense image of the blood coming out of the armor, and Al's just kind of like, crying, leaping there. Also, another thing that I totally did not remember, another example of Fullmetal Alchemist going to some pretty dark places. Another reason why, Ed makes a comment about, okay, like the people of Lior, Scar says, okay, actually the people of Lior, I'm helping them. I'm not going to use them, to make the stone. But when the military comes in to pacify the area, I'm going to use them. I'm going to sacrifice their lives and turn them into a stone. And he's like, no, they're people too. You can't do that. You don't have the right to do that. Scar's basically like, on top of everything they did to us, years ago, I don't have any love for them because when they came into Lior, Rose, who has a baby now, which I always kind of wondered about, I must have missed this line years ago. He says they were actually cornered and she was held by some soldiers and they did some unspeakable things to her, which is why she's so traumatized she can't speak. So it is, and especially because there's a baby there and she's mute, it's highly implied that Rose was raped by some of these crooked Mestrian soldiers. So yeah, Fullmetal Alchemist gets dark with the themes. It gets dark with the violence and the racism and whatnot. A lot of the moral, ethical dilemmas. But yeah, I don't remember a character getting assaulted like that. They all but say it. And it's like, yeah, so basically that is what happened. And I don't know if I missed that or I completely forgot about that. So I was like, whoa, that was a genuine shock to me. But yeah, that's basically the synopsis of what happened in the last couple of episodes. So leading into my overall feelings and review, I think I kind of peppered them out as I tried to throughout my synopsis. But really, I just thought these two episodes, they were filled with really exciting stuff, a lot of heavy drama. There's a lot of powerful imagery too. Really, that imagery after Marta's death with Al sitting there crouching, I think is just almost iconic, really. The backstory for Scar, how he got his scar from Kimberly, we get more fleshed out for that, makes him more tragic. We get more plot points about the homunculi. Ed still doesn't know about Hughes at this point, so it's actually kind of interesting how long it takes in the series before he has that revealed to him and has to deal with that emotional blow. He just finds out about Lior, and the series is slowly kind of circling back to where it started. And as I've been noticing now, I know some people have comments on the pacing, but it's interesting to me how it really does kind of pick up momentum, and it feels like a bit of a slow burn, but the whole series does feel like it's constantly building to something, and we still got about 10, 11 episodes to go, plus the movie, and it really does feel like we are continuously building, but there's just enough pacing where I feel like there's so much more that's to come, right? Because I know there is, but also it's just amazing to me we've gone this far, and I want to say there's so much time to character and the world building. We're so deep into what I would call the main plot now. We've got twists, we've got revelations about characters coming in. So it's really good stuff. I really enjoyed these a lot. I wanted to just keep watching. And maybe it's because I have watched first half of the series more, but now I'm getting to stuff I don't remember quite as well. And I'm like, ooh, the last couple recordings I've found sets of episodes where I just want to keep watching more. So yeah, Fullmetal Love is still there, and I'm like, I wanted to watch another episode for this, but I decided to stop it at 2 because as of this recording, we got Thanksgiving coming up, so I wanted to get this recorded earlier in the week. But yeah, I forgot how, I know Kimberly was evil, but man, I forgot how evil he really was in such a kind of a delightfully villainous way. But yeah, these were very good, and I'm excited to watch more. I'd probably give both these episodes a 9. They were really good. So yeah, those are my thoughts on these 2 episodes. So let me know your thoughts below. Any thoughts, questions, things I might have missed. Always welcome to hear comments in the discussions in the comments section below. Of course, share the podcast if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're getting close to really the end, the last stretch here. And I'm hoping to have this done, if not by the end of the year, maybe like mid-January, roughly within the year I started it. And then I'll probably do the movie after that, and there'll probably be more time for another podcast at some point, as well as maybe some more videos. So it's really good. Now we're in the home stretch, so I think a couple more recordings of this, and we'll be done. So anybody listening at this point, happy Thanksgiving, or happy Thanksgivings in the future if you hear this later. And thank you for listening, everybody. Stay magical.